you still touring?
Oh God, no! I've not done that in 30 years. No, that makes you hot and sweaty.
But if you were touring, how would you be tackling these?
I have enormous respect and regard for the incredibly difficult situation the music industry and particularly young artists now find themselves in. Touring around Europe because of Brexit is fundamentally pretty much impossible now for British artists. It accentuated because of the Americans, in case of going to tour North America, have just massively increased the price of a work permit for North America to go there as a working touring musician. So when it comes to Brexit, from the music industry's perspective, what is in the industry referred to as the Anglo-American catalogue, that's the British music industry and the American industry. Combined, we had somewhere in the region of about 80% of all of the music listened to, consumed, bought, danced to on a Friday night across the rest of Europe was made by British and American artists.
Wow.
We utterly dominated it. So what do you want to do? Instead of sitting down and coming up with a plan to help the British industry become even more dominant, increase the success, increase the money it's repatriating back to the UK, no, you make it impossible for British artists to go touring around the rest of Europe. The whole thing has been, and it's an expression I've heard, it has become a complete clusterfuck for young musicians trying to go on tour in the rest of Europe. It has become impossible. It's massively difficult, and there's an enormous cost element involved in the paperwork and the admin. And if you're going on tour in Belgium for the first time and getting paid a couple of £100 a night, well, the fact you're now having to pay some admin person and pay them half of the fee you're actually getting paid for turning up simply to handle the customs paperwork and all the administration. Well, why on earth would you want to go on tour?
Well, break that down for people who don't quite understand it. So it's the equipment that you're bringing with you. What else is it?
Every single thing that you take out of this country has to be listed on a piece of paper called a carnet. And that includes, by the way, plectrums. So the theory is that if I take 1,000 plectrums, those little plastic things that you pick on guitars with, if I take 1,000 of those out of this country, I will be expected to produce every single 1,000 of them on the way back. Otherwise, I will find myself accused of having exported illegally plectrums or drumsticks or guitars or amplifiers or PA systems or lighting systems and all of it. So the simple truth is you run the risk, and it has happened because clearly customs officials would not in any way be curious about whether that amplifier has actually got speakers in it or any amount of other stuff.
Right.
And it wouldn't be the first time that Arctic lorries have been unloaded in Dover and people made to account for the 6 guitar strings in a packet. You took out 1,000 packets. I want to see all 1,000 packets, and there better be 6 guitar strings beaten up, used or broken in every packet.
That sounds insane.
It's because it's insane.
That wasn't on the referendum vote
I
slip.
don't remember people talking about it, no.
No. But it's also really sad because it means that touring will become a reserve for the wealthy. What if you're a little band that
listen, it already has in many ways.
Really?
And if you're playing the O2 for 28 nights in a row, life's okay. Yeah, if your name's Ed Sheeran or Beyonce, it's fantastic, you're doing really well. At the bottom end of it, when you're out there doing that classic slog and turning up in venues and there's 3 people in a room on a cold Tuesday evening in November, that's pretty much become impossible. But the irony is that particularly for more performance-based bands rather than studio-based bands or artists, for performance-based bands, that's where, to quote that old well-worn phrase, that's where you learned your chops. That's where you learned what you were doing. And I've given this bit of advice to any number of artists over the years. You will learn much, much more standing on a stage in front of 6 people rather than sitting in a rehearsal room for 3 weeks.
Really?
Because once you've got that audience in front of you, game on. You're now going to have to get them interested in what you're doing because they've no interest at all. And by the way, your mates don't count and your girlfriend doesn't count, or your boyfriend doesn't count, and your mum and dad hanging by the bar at the back, they don't count either. They're 6 people that don't know you. Now make them impressed.
Sounds very intimidating.
Oh no, it's fantastic. It is the most exciting thing you can ever do in the world. Music industry, come on, let's face it. For some people, it all comes together, all that talent, all that ability, all of that rehearsal, all of that touring. And if you're lucky, it all culminates where you get to stand on a stage and utter those immortal words, "Good night, Wembley, exit stage left." There's no better feeling in the world, I can tell you.
Do you miss it?
Not in the least. It makes you hot and sweaty.